In 38 years on this bench, I thought I had seen everything. I was wrong. What happened that November morning didn't just break my heart, it restored my faith in human dignity. But to understand why a police chief's impossible choice became the most talked about moment in Providence legal history, you need to know what his son did to a 70-year-old Vietnam veteran in broad daylight. It was a cold Tuesday morning, November 15th. I was reviewing what seemed like a routine assault case. The defendant, 32-year-old Derek Cole, son of Police Chief Thomas Cole, a man I had known and respected for 15 years. The victim, Robert Martinez, a decorated Marine, 3 tours in Vietnam, a man who survived war zones only to be attacked in a city park by someone young enough to be his grandson. 3 days earlier, Martinez was walking his dog in Roger Williams Park when Derek's BMW came speeding through. Martinez raised his hand, a simple gesture, the kind any grandfather might make, asking him to slow down. Derek slammed the brakes, got out, and shoved the 70-year-old man so hard that he hit his head on the pavement. Concussion, 3 broken ribs, fractured wrist. When bystanders tried to intervene, Derek looked at them and said, "Do you know who I am? My father is the police chief. Call the cops. I dare you." Then he got back in his car and drove away, leaving a decorated veteran bleeding on the ground. The security footage went viral. The entire city demanded justice. What they were about to witness in my courtroom, however, was something no one expected. When Derek walked in at exactly 10:30 that morning, everything about him said one thing: I'm untouchable. Designer suit. Expensive watch. That smirk, the kind worn by people who have never once faced a real consequence in their lives. Behind him walked Marcus Richardson, one of Providence's most expensive defense attorneys. The kind who specializes in making wealthy clients' problems quietly disappear. But what caught my attention wasn't the attorney. It was how Derek passed Robert Martinez, who sat in the gallery wearing his Vietnam veteran cap, his broken wrist in a cast, without a single glance. No acknowledgement. No remorse. Nothing. That's when I knew. This young man had never been taught a lesson that money couldn't undo. "Mr. Cole," I said, standing up from my bench, something I only do when a case demands more than legal formality. "You are charged with assault and battery on an elderly person. How do you plead?" His attorney jumped up immediately. "Not guilty, Your Honor. We believe this is a case of mistaken identity." I held up my hand. "Counselor, I asked your client. Mr. Cole, do you have a voice?" Derek stood, adjusted his jacket, and looked directly at me. "Not guilty, Your Honor. Honestly, this whole thing is ridiculous." The word hung in the air like a slap. I slowly removed my glasses. "Ridiculous, Mr. Cole? I've reviewed the security footage. I've read the hospital reports. I've seen the photographs of Mr. Martinez's injuries. Would you like to reconsider that word?" He glanced at his lawyer, who was frantically signaling him to stay quiet, but his ego wouldn't allow it. "Your Honor, with all due respect, this is being blown out of proportion. Some old guy got in my way. I barely touched him." The gallery gasped. "Some old guy. A man who spent 3 tours in Vietnam. Barely touched him. A man who spent 2 nights in the hospital." I walked around from behind my bench, eliminating every inch of formal distance between us. "Mr. Martinez," I said, turning to the gallery. "Would you please stand and tell Mr. Cole who you are?" The veteran rose slowly, supporting himself with his good arm. "My name is Robert Martinez. I served in the United States Marine Corps from 1968 to 1971. 2 tours in Vietnam. Purple Heart. Bronze Star for Valor. Retired Providence firefighter. I've lived in the city for 50 years. He paused. "And 3 days ago, this man assaulted me for no reason other than I asked him to slow down." The courtroom went absolutely silent. I turned back to Derek. "Mr. Cole, you called that man some old guy who got in your way." Derek's smirk was fading, but his arrogance hadn't. "Your Honor, I didn't know he was a veteran." How was I supposed to know? My response was immediate. "Mr. Cole, it shouldn't matter whether he's a veteran or not. Assault is assault. But the fact that you think it would only matter if you knew his service record, that tells me everything I need to know about your character. I signaled the court clerk. The security footage began playing on the screen. The entire courtroom watched in silence. Derek's BMW speeding through the park. Martinez raising one hand, just one hand, asking him to slow down. Derek slamming the brakes. Getting out. Shoving a 70-year-old man to the ground with both hands. Standing over him. Pointing. Shouting. Then casually walking back to his car and driving away. Still think this is ridiculous, Mr. Cole? Derek's face had gone pale. Your Honor, I was having a bad day. I'd just received some bad news. I wasn't thinking clearly. I stepped closer. In 38 years on this bench, I have seen people who lost their jobs, lost their homes, lost their children stand before me. Do you know what they didn't do? They didn't assault elderly veterans because they were having a bad day. I looked at him steadily. Here is what I believe happened. I believe you have spent your entire life thinking you are special. I believe your father's position has shielded you from every consequence you ever deserved. I believe you walked into this courtroom today expecting that pattern to continue. I paused, and that is what we are going to end. Today, then I did something no one in that courtroom saw coming. I looked toward the back row. Chief Cole, would you please come forward? The entire courtroom turned. There, in a simple button-down shirt, no uniform, no badge, sat Police Chief Thomas Cole. He had been there the entire time. He had heard every word his son said. He had watched him show no remorse, display no humility, demonstrate no understanding of what he had done. Derek spun around. For the first time since entering that courtroom, his arrogance completely shattered. Dad, what are you doing here? Chief Cole walked down the center aisle, each step heavy. 35 years of law enforcement in his posture, and the weight of a father's heartbreak in his eyes. Chief Cole, I said, your son has implied multiple times that your position will protect him from the consequences of his actions. I'd like to give you the opportunity to address that belief. This was the moment. A father forced to choose between protecting his child and upholding everything he had spent his life standing for. Chief Cole took one slow breath. Your Honor, my son is wrong. He has always been wrong about that. He turned to Derek. I've spent 35 years serving this city. I have arrested drug dealers, murderers, corrupt officials. I put my life on the line to protect the innocent. And not once, not one single time, did I ever believe my badge gave me or my family the right to break those same laws. Derek tried to speak. Dad, the chief raised one hand. The authority in that gesture was absolute. Derek went silent. I watched the footage the day after the incident. I read the hospital reports. I know exactly what happened. His voice began to crack. I'm here today not as Police Chief Cole. I'm here as Thomas Cole, a father who failed to teach his son the most important lessons: respect, humility, and accountability. He looked directly at his son. I thought I taught you right from wrong. I thought I showed you what it means to protect the vulnerable, to treat every human being with dignity. But somewhere along the way, I failed. And that failure is standing right here in front of me. Derek's face crumbled. Tears filled his eyes. Dad, please, Derek. The chief's voice was quiet now, but it carried the weight of everything. I love you. You're my son, and that will never change. But love does not mean protecting you from consequences. Love means holding you accountable, so you can become the man you are supposed to be. He looked back at me. Your Honor, whatever sentence you deem appropriate, you have my full support. My son assaulted a decorated veteran. He showed no remorse. He disrespected this court and everything I have spent my life standing for. He stood straight. He deserves to face the full weight of the law, and I will not interfere. The courtroom erupted in whispers. A police chief, in open court, asking a judge to hold his own son fully accountable. Derek was openly weeping now. Dad, I'm sorry. I didn't mean. Do you know what I did yesterday? The chief said quietly. I visited Mr. Martinez at his home. I apologized to him on your behalf. I looked him in the eye and told him that your actions do not represent the values of this department or this family. He paused. Do you know what he said to me? Derek shook his head, tears streaming down his face. He said, Chief, your son needs help, not protection. Silence. He's right. You don't need me to bail you out. You need to face what you've done and change. I had been watching all of this in silence. This was what real courage looked like. Chief Cole, I said, what you have done today, standing here and choosing justice over your instinct to protect your child, that takes more strength than most people will ever understand in their lifetime. I turned to Derek. Mr. Cole, do you understand what just happened? Your father, a man who could have made this disappear with a single phone call, chose instead to stand in this courtroom and honor the law. That is what integrity looks like. Derek could barely speak. Your Honor, I'm so sorry. I was wrong about everything. That, I said, is the first honest thing you have said since you walked through those doors. Derek Michael Cole, I find you guilty of assault and battery on an elderly person. I let the silence hold for a moment. You will serve 90 days in the Providence County Correctional Facility. You will complete 200 hours of community service, specifically working with elderly veterans at the VA hospital. You will attend anger management counseling for 1 year. You will write a formal letter of apology to Mr. Martinez to be read aloud in this courtroom, followed by a face-to-face meeting where you will apologize to him personally. Derek nodded at each word. Furthermore, you will record a public video apology to be posted on the Providence Police Department's social media accounts, in which you will explain what you did, why it was wrong, and what you are doing to make amends. Because sunlight is the most powerful disinfectant for arrogance. And after you complete your sentence, you will speak to Providence Police Academy recruits about privilege, accountability, and what happens when a man believes he is above the law. You will share your story, not to humiliate you, but to prevent other young men from standing where you are standing today. Chief Cole spoke up. Your Honor, I want to add one thing, if I may. I nodded. Derek will also be moving out of my home. He is 32 years old. He has lived under my roof, under my protection, under my name for too long. That ends today. He needs to learn to stand on his own and understand that privilege is earned, not inherited. Derek looked at his father as if the ground had opened beneath him. Dad, it's time, son, the chief said, his voice barely steady. It's time to grow up. I looked at Robert Martinez. Mr. Martinez, do you have anything you'd like to say? The 70-year-old veteran rose slowly. Your Honor, I don't want revenge. I just want this young man to understand that every person he meets deserves respect. Age, rank, position, none of that matters. We are all human beings trying to live our lives with dignity. If he learns that lesson, then this whole experience will have been worth it. The courtroom was completely still. Here was a man who had been assaulted, hospitalized, and publicly humiliated, offering forgiveness and wisdom instead of anger. I turned to Derek one final time. Mr. Cole, the man you assaulted is showing you more grace than you deserve. I suggest you spend every day of your sentence thinking about that. Thinking about who you want to be. Thinking about whether you want to remain the person who walked in here today or whether you want to become someone your father can be proud of. Court is adjourned. As the officers approached, Chief Cole walked to his son. They stood face to face for a long, wordless moment. Then the chief pulled him close. I love you, he whispered, just loud enough for those nearby to hear. But I love you enough to let you face this. You'll get through it. And when you do, you'll be better. You'll be the man I know you can be. Derek sobbed into his father's shoulder. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry. I know, son. The chief's voice broke completely. Now prove it. The officers led Derek away. Chief Cole stood there, watching his son disappear through the courtroom doors, tears falling quietly down his face. I extended my hand. He took it. You did the right thing, I said quietly. He nodded slowly. Doesn't make it hurt any less. No, I agreed. But it makes it worth it. 6 months later, Derek Cole walked out of the Providence County Correctional Facility. He had lost weight, gained humility, found purpose. His 200 hours at the VA hospital had turned into something he chose to continue long after the court required it. He sat across from Robert Martinez and apologized, not with the words of a man performing a sentence, with the words of a man who finally understood what he had done. Martinez became his mentor. He taught Derek about service, sacrifice, and the true meaning of strength. In 38 years on this bench, I had seen guilt, grief, defiance, and broken men find redemption. But I had never seen a father stand in open court and choose justice over his own son. And I had never seen that choice, that one devastating, loving, courageous choice, save that son. Some people ask me what the greatest moment of my career was. It wasn't a landmark ruling. It wasn't a complex verdict. It was watching a police chief take off his badge, walk down a courtroom aisle, and remind every person in that room what it truly means to love someone.